It's funny that you should ask, little lighting technician. I have a very strange crew here, folks. It's dual jobs for several different people. And we have a guest in the studio today, our little me, who is a mermaid. I should remind you, boys and girls, that these stories are fairy tales. I just don't start them with once upon a time. And they're also just made up, so nothing's real, okay? There's no big bad wolves that's going to go and huff and puff and blow your house down or anything like that. So all you mommies and daddies out there and mamas and papas and all the grandparents out there, it's all made up. It's just fairy tales out of this crazy head of mine. Okay, today's story is about last minute details and the party. And also the roofers are still here, so if you hear a knock, 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 it's not any visitors at my door, unfortunately. It's the roofers upstairs. And I live on the first or second floor, so you can imagine what upstairs is like. Okay, to the story. The next day, after the Mr. Farmer Brown and Mr. Patrick Pig and Mr. Alvin Alligator and all the children and their wives had helped make Little Bad Wolf's house. You remember that? It was the very next day, and Mr. Farmer Brown came, and he was the first visitor to knock on the Little Bad Wolf's house. And Little Bad Wolf opened the door. Of course, he peeked through the peephole first. That's very important. You want to see who's there so that you don't open the door to somebody that's not supposed to be in your house. So he said, "Mr. Farmer Brown, come in. You're my first visitor." And Mr. Farmer Brown smiled and he says, "Well, I've come here on business." Little Bad Wolf got so scared. He says, "Oh my gosh, what kind of business are we going to have today? Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear." And I should have. And so Mr. Farmer Brown says, No. He said, "I've come to fix something." He said, "I want to see your trap door." Now, remember the trap door was in the bedroom, and he ran in the bedroom when his father was going to huff and puff. Remember, the big bad wolf was going to huff and puff his house down. He ran in there and he opened up the trap door. He jumped into the tunnel and he reached up and he closed the trap door. Now, Mr. Farmer Brown had a real good idea. Mrs. Farmer Brown, last night at supper time, after everybody had left, she had told Mr. Farmer Brown that she had gave Little Bad Wolf a rug. And he says, "Well, now that's an idea that I want to talk about." He said, "What color was the rug that you gave him?" And she says, "Well, it was blue." He says, "Do you have any kind of a rug that's got flowers in it?" And she says, "Well, yes, I do." She says, "Remember the old kitchen rug that we used to have?" He says, "Oh, Mrs. Brown, honey, did you save that?" And she said, "I surely did." He says, "Well, can you go get it for me? Because I'm going to go see Little Bad Wolf tomorrow." Sure enough, Mr. Farmer Brown had this poor-looking little ragtag of a rug, and it had yellow flowers in it. Well, he also pulled out of his other pocket in his overalls some nails that had a little flat head on them like that. And that flat head was yellow. And you're asking me, what does all that mean? Well, that means that when he's going to tack down the rug on top of the trap door, okay? And then he's going to put the nails in each one of the yellow flowers, to tack the rug down so the rug won't move. So, yellow nails in a yellow flower, nobody would ever see them, right? So, Little Bad Wolf is, he knows right away what's going on. And he says, Mr. Farmer Brown, he says, thank you so much. This is going to be so great. And Mr. Farmer Brown says, well, we're going to practice. We're going to practice. He said, I'm going to say, all right, Little Bad Wolf, I'm going to come and huff and puff and blow your house down. And when I say that, I want you to run and open the trap door up and jump in, pull the trap door down. We're going to practice that. I'm going to stand in the living room, and you're going to be in the living room. I'm going to stand in the living room, but you're going to be in the living room, and I want you to run. Then I'm going to say it again, and I want you to run from the kitchen and see how fast. I'll time it. And I'll see how fast that you do this. Oh, Little Bad Wolf. You know he was a fast runner. And I've already forgotten what sport he went out for. No, he didn't go. Just the piggies went, yeah. And so anyway, he was able to get from the kitchen to the bedroom, open up that trap door, jump in the tunnel, close the trap door back down on top of him in 10 seconds. Wow, wow, wow. Now, Mr. Farmer Brown says, we got one more thing to do. And guess what he did? He opened up the trap door and he built another door that after Little Pig closed the first trap door, then Little Pig closed this new second trap door with a lock. Had a lock over here. And that meant that even if Big Bad Wolf, well, if the Big Bad Wolf found that trap door and opened it up, there would be another one with a lock down here, and here's the tunnel. Oh, Little Bad Wolf was so proud of his house. He knew that it was going to be wonderful. So Mr. Farmer Brown went home. The Little Bad Wolf went to see the 3 little pigs. And he says, you know what I'd like to do, Piggly, Wiggly, and Squiggly? I would love to say thank you to Mr. Farmer Brown. But I don't want to just go to his house and say, thank you, Mr. Farmer Brown. I want to do something special. And Piggly says, that'd be fun. What can we do? And Squiggly said, why don't we put on a play for Mr. Farmer Brown? Well, about that time, here comes Allie the alligator. And, of course, Patty Pig and Sally Skunk and Sadie Skunk was right behind him. And they all gathered around, and so Sally says, what are we going to do today, boys? And Wiggly says, we're going to practice to put on a play for Mr. Farmer Brown to say thank you for building the Little Bad Wolf's house. Oh, my goodness gracious. So they went in and talked to Mrs. Piggy, and Mrs. Piggy says, oh, that would be just wonderful. And Mama Piggy says, I tell you what, you practiced, and I will call Mrs. Farmer Brown, and I will tell her that tomorrow night we're going to come over and we're going to have a party for Mr. Farmer Brown, and it's going to be a surprise party. Oh, the boys and girls practiced all day, and they had all sorts of ideas, and they were practicing what to do, and they were going to make, one was going to make magic tricks, and one was going to do acrobatic tricks, you know, tumbling, jumping jacks. GrandMommy's kind of lost for words here. So the very next night, here comes the alligator with his daddy and his mama, and here comes Patty Pig and Mrs. Pig, and here comes Mama Pig and the three boys, Piggly, Wiggly, and Squiggly, and Sadie Skunk and Sally Skunk and her mother, their mother, and they all come knocking on the door to Mr. Farmer Brown. And Mrs. Farmer Brown says, "Mr. Farmer Brown, honey, can you answer that door? My hands are full." Because she knew who it was. So he goes to the door, and he opens up the door, and all the boys and girls said, "Surprise!" And he goes, "Okay, what are you boys and girls doing here?" And they said, "Well, it's a surprise party for you, Mr. Farmer Brown, because you did such a great, wonderful job with Little Bad Wolf's house, and Little Bad Wolf wants to say thank you." And Mr. Farmer Brown says, "Aw, that's so nice of you, boys and girls. Well, come on in." And so the grown-ups, they went in, and Mr. Farmer Brown says, "Aren't the children coming in?" And Mrs. Mama Piggy says, "They're going to come in, but they're going to come in their own way." So she stood by the door, and there was little, and she said, "Mr. Farmer Brown, this is the first act of the children's play." And she opened up the door, and of course it was Little Bad Wolf, because it was his idea and it was his house. And he comes through the door doing somersaults all the way through the living room, through the dining room, back to the kitchen. Wow. And kind of surprised Mrs. Farmer Brown, because she didn't know what to expect. And she was still cooking supper, and she thought, "I hope everybody's ate, because I haven't got enough supper, but I think I can find some more stuff to cook real quick." And boy, she was hurrying around, and she was so Patty Pig's mama and Sally Skunk's mother went in to help Mrs. Farmer Brown, because wow, there was a lot of people to feed. So there was a knock on the door again, and here comes Piggly, Wiggly, and Squiggly. And they were throwing balls up and down and catching them like this, you know. And then Piggly threw a ball to Wiggly, whoops, and then Wiggly caught it, and he throws it over to Squiggly, and Squiggly caught it, and Squiggly threw it back to Wiggly, and Wiggly caught it. Now Piggly. And now Piggly threw two balls to Wiggly, and Wiggly caught him, and Wiggly threw two balls to Squiggly, and Squiggly caught it and threw two balls back over to Piggly. Oh my goodness gracious. Mr. Farmer Brown says, "Where did you boys learn that?" And the boys said, "I don't know. We just knew how to do it. We've done this ever since we've been 3 years old. I don't know. Somebody taught us, I guess. I don't know." Well, he says, "That was good. And Little Bad Wolf, you did excellent." So Allie the alligator, he's next. And he knocked on the door, knock, knock. And Mrs. Piggy opened it. And he comes in. And he had a poem to recite. Now, GrandMommy doesn't know the poem, but the poem was called The Raven. And it's a very big poem, a very famous poem. GrandMommy used to know, hi Kathy, GrandMommy used to know that poem. GrandMommy doesn't know it anymore, okay? So anyway, Mr. Farmer Brown says, "Oh, Allie, the alligator, that was wonderful. How did you learn that?" And Allie Alligator says, "Well, we had it in school, and I just happened to like that poem, and so I wanted to learn it." Well, there was another knock on the door, very light. Of course, you know who it was. It was Sally Skunk and Patty Pig. And Sadie, little teeny tiny Sadie. Yeah, about that big. They came in, and Mr. Farmer Brown says, "Well, girls, what are you going to do?" And Patty Pig says, "We're going to sing a song." And Mr. Farmer Brown says, "What are you going to sing?" And Patty Pig says, "Well, it's an old song that my grandmommy taught me when I was a little girl." And she's only 6 now, so, you know. Anyway, the song was "Way Down Upon the Swanee River." Now, that's a real old song. And all 3 girls, they sang the song, and they curtsied when they got through. And Mr. Farmer Brown says, "Well, you boys and girls, you have just done my old heart proud. I'm so proud of you kids. You did so good." And Little Bad Wolf says, "Well, Mr. Farmer Brown, this was my way of saying thank you for making my beautiful, pretty house. I love my pretty house." And Mr. Farmer Brown says, "Well, I am so glad that we did that." Well, boys and girls, this is the end for the day, right on time. And next week, we'll have another adventure on Monday. So make sure that you tune in. I'll announce what time it's going to be, probably in the afternoon. And a special hello to a little boy named Caden up in Pennsylvania. Okay? Grandmommy says, "Hi, Caden."
Hi, Kaden.
And my crew says, "Hi, Caden."
Hi, Kaden.
So we'll see you next Monday. All for now. Bye-bye.